none of our capital reserve funds were funded. And everything was super tight. And then the reason why all of these increases are because of all the special ed needs and whatever else crap that's been said. And it's been perceived that basically the budget that you're requesting is very much needed because we're not going to be able to operate the school if it's not. And so that if that's the case, then I'm thinking if that's the money that you need, then there's not going to be any money left over. So there's not going to be able to put money into the capital reserve fund. And so that's the, like, I don't understand where any of the logic is coming from with how you guys budget.
So I guess, so you maybe elaborate maybe on what Christine, or at least this is how I'm seeing it. So we have a public hearing with the school board, so you want to draw $377,000 out of the special education fund. Now you're saying you're going to put a warrant article in here to say take revenues from this year, we're current year end we're in, to put it back in there. Why don't we just use the revenues from there and not take the money out of special education trust fund, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Well, yeah,
But we're applying this $300,000 as of next year from this year's money, and I don't know how you can, I mean, from this town side, I couldn't take DMV revenues and apply it to next year to offset my taxes for next year. And that's what it sounds like that's happening.
But once they go into the operating funds, then we lose control over how they get spent. Putting them in the trust funds gives an earmark on where they go. It gives control.
I understand that, but if we're gonna have to spend the money in special education to put these several kids out of district, we have to come up with money. We need the 300,000, so why don't we just take it right from the special ed,
It sounds like this. It sounds like you have $50,000 in your savings account. You need to go out and buy a car. And instead of taking the money out of your savings account, you're going to go ahead and take out a loan. Get yourself into debt.
and then take the savings and pay the loan off.
Yeah.
I just don't, like I said, having a hard time wrapping around because from the town side, there is no way that I could take revenues from next year or this year, because that's a revenue to me. That's that money, that grant or whatever they call it. Special education, special education aid and the state of New Hampshire Medicaid reimbursement. That is a revenue. Sounds like money coming in. So I don't know how we can take revenues from.
I will ask for clarification on that.
Next year. And I'm curious, Heather, as to what line is that in here? Because I remember back years ago, there used to be a line that said CAT aid. And it's no longer on here, so I would suspect this has been renamed something else. That's just, I mean, to me, it feels like we're doing all of this when maybe we already have the money there.
But it's also,
But if it's a reimbursement, in other words, it doesn't force the SAU to spend it on special ed. Putting it in the trust fund forces us to spend it on special ed.
I would suspect.
well, you as a school board member and the school board needs to force the SAU to utilize our money appropriately.
But I would say, if we're getting money from a Medicaid reimbursement and special education aid received from the state of New Hampshire, it should be used towards special education and Medicaid aid.
Right, it should be used for anything.
It should not be being earmarked to go to supplies, books, plowing the driveway or whatever.
Yeah, because it's a reimbursement, so that we are getting reimbursed money we've already spent, so it should go back to where we've already spent it from.
Yeah.
For that. But not only that, this warrant article is worded so it's up to 300,000. And we don't even know if we're gonna get 300,000, we might only get 50,000.
Right.
So this is money we don't have yet, right? It's going to be reimbursed at the end of the year.
I have a question to ask on when we get those reimbursements and how often they come
Well, and
in.
it also depends on how good the SAU is doing the billing. for
Because-
Medicaid.
Because I would say, based off of looking on this revenues thing that you gave us, that there's nothing, it's like, so the state grant says in budget 25, we had 1.5 million. We actually got 1.5 million. Budget 26 is 1.8 million. or round up, all the generous, right? Estimated for 27 is 1.6. So I'm gonna guess, because there's nothing else in here other than this, the title program, which is around 45,000, the ideas, which is 24. Well, then there's this, I guess there's this other federal programs that says 265. I don't know if that's ESSA or not. But I'm just saying, I don't see where the Medicaid special ed reimbursement is coming in here. That's all.
No, Medicaid, for current or in general? Because I'm,
Just in, like, if you would, when they're talking about this Medicaid reimbursement, special education aid, what line is that? Because you should be able to find it in the previous year. So what did we receive in 2025? We should be able to find it in this, it should be in here, embedded somewhere, I'm guessing. And you could say, oh, it's $60,250. I don't know, I'm just saying.
yeah, the line for 25 is blank.
So,
I just have to say, I think it's unfortunate that you're sent here to have to answer all these questions. I don't know of a town around here that doesn't send an SAU official who actually has the answers. Because in reality, let's be honest, they're driving the bus here. They shouldn't be, but they're driving the bus. The school board doesn't have the detail on the answers, I believe. Whereas the select board, because we don't have a town administrator, town manager, they know all the details. You can get answers like that.
So I know-
It makes me wonder. I'm a skeptical person when it comes to why are they putting you here
They don't
when they
give
can
you
answer questions.
They don't
We,
give you
so
that.
next year, I know, I wasn't in the budget process last year. I joined like a couple of weeks or 6 weeks before deliberative. So when I joined, I know what we've done since I joined is I got Kathy to come here in October and go over the budget and kind of explain that. I told the school board, I want us voting on our budget so that we can present it to the budget committee in November. So we've made that happen. And then I made the superintendent come here and present. So those are things that I have really pushed for. And after the meeting that we had, I emailed everybody, including the SAU and Kathy, and said, I will be up there tomorrow at 10 a.m. Please make yourself available. They did not. So now I had to go back to them, and I had to email them and do that PDF with all of those tabs and go through line by line on the budget and email those questions. Now, the school board will be exploring all of our options with regard to the SAU's failure to provide you what you need. Next year, the plan is we will be requesting 3 days of budget hearing, and the SAU will be preparing the binders with all the proofs that you need, and we will go through it line by line, and they will be here and they will do that, because that is the expectation, and that's what should be happening, and it didn't happen this year. So it doesn't help us this year, I completely get that. But every time we're doing it, we're trying, we're improving, and we're moving forward, so.
To the board, I do appreciate that as a taxpayer, but when Heather put back the $400,000 last year, we were assured that we wouldn't have the kind of questions and clouded information without specificity. We were assured of it. And here we are again in the same boat, basically. We're going to be expected, and there'll be emails going out and messages going out to families saying, you're going to rob kids of their education, and none of us want to do that.
Yeah.
We also want to rein in the SAU who's not answering questions, and we'd like to support the school board in their asserting their proper role, and we appreciate it.
And nothing but month after month, at least half of this board has been showing up to school board meetings.
Mhm.
And we have voiced how we feel and what the expectations are very clearly. I don't think I could get any more clear of what my expectations have been for the school board and the SAU. And for the fact that they failed to show up to these hearings, knowing how we feel about this budget, especially when she did the presentation, shows that they don't care. They don't care about our town. They don't care about our budget. They don't care if they're taxing us to death. They don't care about the piss poor numbers that the kids are putting out for performance. And for that, you will see a petition warrant article from me for next year, and it will say that we do not want the SAU anymore, and that when the contract's done, we need to cut ties with them, because this superintendent is horrible. And growing up in a town in Mass that had a very corrupt school system and very corrupt politics, she belongs down there, not up here. I'm disgusted with her performance, and I'm disgusted that the school board is allowing her to continue to behave this way. Go ahead, Roxanne.
So,
It's-
no, that's okay. So these other things that are under this actual for 25, Heather, I'd be curious, because it says, I see we have other federal programs that we get 265,708. Is that, you know what I mean, but we don't have anything budgeted for 26 or 27. And is that because we never know what it's gonna be? You know, is that the, and then there's also under local revenue, that's federal revenue, then it says local revenues, there's miscellaneous, 192,391. I'd be curious as to what that makes up that 192,391. It seems like an awful lot of revenue we've received. When you wonder what, how ended this out at the last meeting?
I don't know.
All right, no, I'm just saying.
Does anybody need another copy?
Do you have one?
I think I do. How many do you guys need down there? Or-
And
Yeah.
we all love miscellaneous lines.
You have one more?
Yeah.
So I'm just curious that, I mean, it's a nice windfall that we get 192,000, but.
All right, so you asked about that one.
And so that's under local revenue. And then under federal revenues, it's the other federal programs. Is that the Medicaid state special education, or the special education
That's,
reimbursement?
I believe that is the Medicaid reimbursement.
So I guess the question is so should we just suspect it's a windfall every, I just don't know how, like, you know it's coming in. I get it, you don't know how much it's going to be, but you should have, I suspect, kind of like what, an estimate? Like, we didn't get anything in 2025?
I forget, I know that they told us at the last board meeting, wasn't it 2,500 or something? It wasn't a large amount.
That was,
I was thinking it was something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't.
So it depends,
For
it's
sure.
not every student has Medicaid. I don't know how many in the school actually have Medicaid as their insurance. So that's your primary driver. And second, even if they have it, it doesn't mean that they need services that would qualify under Medicaid for reimbursement. So in other words, it's only for the services that they're actually getting in the school that are going to be, that we have to pay for, that we would then get reimbursed for.
So I'll tell you this, if the school and the SAU, you.
I'm sure they have that information, but it's
No, they
HIPAA,
do.
so I
They
don't.
need better education on explaining. to
I reached out to
families
Ivy, yep.
Because Ben's but he doesn't have Medicaid, but, I mean, I got all of the paperwork, and the paperwork is a part of the packet, but it doesn't explain anything. And right when I saw the Medicaid, I was just like, not doing that.
I don't know the interplay of Katie Beckett with Medicaid for
What's that?
schools. I don't know the interplay of the Katie Beckett or HCCSD benefits and Medicaid, but
I don't know.
yeah.
You know, just another example of the SAU, I think, wanting to control things. When I brought out at that other meeting about that training that was that day, and none of the school board members had the time to go, I understand, people are busy. This SAU said in that meeting, that's more of our role. Yet that was put out by the School Boards Association. So the School Boards Association doesn't train SAU officials primarily, does it? It primarily trains school board members. So the intention was for school board members to become educated
Yeah.
in the use of these funds. The SAU doesn't want you to become educated in that, I'm pretty sure. Because
Yeah.
it's easier for them to go to the taxpayers than to get the reimbursement.
I'd
That's
rather,
been the
I mean, from my perspective, you've identified a problem, we're aware of the problem, we're remedying it. I'd rather not focus on
Okay.
the blame piece.
Sure.
I get that, I hear you, we hear you, we're working on it,
Thank you.
that's all I can say.
Well, I just think it's missed money.
Yeah.
It's missed money, and given what we're looking at.
Oh, I don't disagree, and I reached out to Ivy and asked her sort of, hey, let me know what your ask is. I will talk to the Medicaid director, and we will get you in touch with the appropriate person, so then we can decide, is this a school-wide meeting? Is this a targeted approach? Do you need literature? Do you need a case aide to come when you have parent meetings? Like, I don't know what she needs, because she knows the clientele that she's dealing with and the parents and what they're going to do. So what works best is really, she's driving the boat on that, but I will facilitate and make sure they have that contact information.
And that's great, but I just feel that it shouldn't have to get to this point. It should be just automatic, it should be inherent to be done, you know what I mean? It's just unfortunate that we're, in the community that we live in, every dollar is important. It's, you know what I mean, because we don't get big, we don't have a lot of infrastructure for people, to bring revenues
And I think
in.
it's challenging because we do meet once a month, so there may be some discussion about making it more frequent so we can keep on top of these things a little bit better. I don't know,
Well,
but
until you get to the point where you're, and I agree, until you get to the point where you're more comfortable with what the
Yeah.
numbers that are coming in, because I would throw out this is what I'd say is, because we are a comparable school to Effingham. which is under the Governor Wentworth School District, I would say, what does the Effingham school, their elementary school, what do they get for aid? Because I suspect our numbers are very close. I went up and looked at like our counts and stuff like that, our student count and whatever, and I'm like, very close. I get it, they pay a per tuition, and I can tell you, I think their per tuition that they paid for their students, their budget was gonna be like $4.2 million. And I'm like, and ours is 6.2. And I mean, granted, I get that ours includes, well, I'm sorry, I should say, I calculated it for like what it would be, what their comparable, like what their school, elementary school pays versus what our elementary school would cost if you take out like the tuition, high school, middle school, whatever. There's some movement for, I took out like special education for going out of district and whatever. But I'm like, our tuition dollars were much higher than what Effingham was paying to have Governor Wentworth take over the school. It was just like.
See, I was told the per pupil rate was whatever the rate was for all Governor Wentworth, and we were the only ones who were not paying the per pupil rate because the contract had us staggering up and ratcheting.
I'm talking if you took and said what the cost would be for elementary. I'm not talking about high school. So high school, I don't, because we pay, and I get that, we're paying a rate, and we're eventually going to get to what that rate is that all the other towns pay. I'm talking about like all the elementary schools that Governor Wentworth oversees, they pay a rate per student, $20,000 just to make a round number. I think when I took and looked at, like, based off of our budget, and you strip down the stuff that you take out with the middle school, high school, whatever, you're down to it. Our tuition rate is like $25,000 to run our school, where it'd be like, it might be cheaper to tuition them out. And it's not nice to say, but,
Well,
if
they
we're
can't
not,
interact together.
because if we're not accessing the avenues to offset some of this cost, then it really doesn't behoove us to keep the school. And I mean, I voted for the school, and my kids are in the third.
We're still going to be stuck paying the building. And who knows?
Well,
Or we further bring it closer into town instead of continuing to go
This
external.
is true.
But
But also too, I know in the last meeting I had asked about like, I mean, it's not that money related, but it is because we're paying this amount of money to send for our kids to get the education in this town that they're getting. And, the curriculum is the same here as it is across Governor Wentworth. But there's only one other elementary school in the district that their scores are lower than us. Everybody else is 50% or higher on all of them. So why are we paying what we are paying for the education when our kids our kids are suffering already? So it doesn't matter. Compared to what we learned in 4th grade, because my daughter's in 4th grade, she doesn't know half of what we learned, and it's quite frankly, it's pretty disgusting that we're paying this amount of money for nothing. Like really, it is nothing. These kids are not, they can't write cursive. Like they can't do anything that we did growing up because they're not being taught anything.
If they don't learn the basics, reading, writing, arithmetic, they can't do science and history and all that stuff, if they're not, I homeschooled my kids, and I know the first 6 years, I concentrated on those basic things, and then added in as they were ready, type thing. It's easier for a homeschool to do than public school, but if you don't have reading, writing, arithmetic, those kids aren't going to go anywhere. We actually have lawsuits out there across the country. The kids are going to college, finding out they didn't get what they needed, and they're suing their school district. So yeah.
We're feeling, and then it will cost the taxpayers in the end too, because once these kids grow up and become adults, and they cannot function in the real world, and they have low-paying, minimum wage jobs, and we're going to be paying their health insurance because they're going to be applying for Medicaid. Huh? No, that's
accessory dwelling units.
I'm down at the school, but we're setting these kids up. The whole point of making sure our kids are educated is so that they have the best and so that they come out better than what we are. Like I want my son to have more than what I had and not struggle the way I struggle. And that's kind of like the dream. You always want better for your kids, and we're giving so much worse.
Yeah.
And we're allowing it. The town is allowing it, the taxpayers allowing it, and the school board is allowing it.
It's, I think the idea is, nobody wants to see the school fail. And I think unfortunately, it was right, the meeting you had 2 meetings ago now, I don't know, it's right, but they all went into where the school, school scores were showed. And it was really sad to see that, that we had kids, we might have one grade that, you have the outliers, and I understand that, because you're fortunate that you have a child or, whatever, But then you have the other kids who, I will say, I can tell you myself, would fall through the cracks. He didn't require services, but he certainly wasn't the ABC student, and unfortunately, those are the kids that are falling through, who are less likely to be able to move, to get a better jump on life. And I can only say this, so when my son graduated high school, I think when he went to college, he had to take, like, the remedial math, because he didn't take the math, he did not pass the math. He had to take, I think, a math test and a English test.
Placement.
And basically, we had to pay for an extra math class for him to take to get it, so he could get into the college math and whatever. And this is what's happening, I think, with the students, and it's just like, you want them to have a good foundation. And I don't think the taxpayer is saying, we don't want to pay for that. We do, we're willing to pay for that, but we feel that we're just throwing money after bad. We're not, we give the money, then we're not seeing the results.
If you guys came to us with this budget, and we had kids that were in the 90th percentile, and we had an A or B rated school, and things were great, and the kids were thriving, and we would be like,
Well,
you can't, we don't necessarily like it, but if you're proving to us
I
that,
can swallow it better.
yeah,
I hear that,
nobody's gonna like writing that check at the end of the year.
Yeah.
But if we're producing kids that are succeeding, and you're showing us where every single penny is going, and everything's being used wisely, and you're proving that to us, then we're kind of like, you can't fight with it. Like, there's no disputing it. Like, you can't, that's the cost, that's what it is, this is what it's producing.
Yep.
But you're not showing us any of it, and what we're producing is not great.
I know that the principal is very data-driven, so I'll be curious to see what she does from last year or from this year to next year with that information that she has, so.
Yeah, I just think I think we're underutilizing some services for revenue, reimbursement that we're not getting, and that's really an avenue we need to, aggressively pursue.
And
For the longest time, there wasn't even revenue provided in our budget. I had to
Yeah.
ask for that and
Well,
insist
and
that be
well, I will
presented.
tell you now,
To ask
the
and
budget
ask.
committee has to approve its revenue.
I would say, just so you know, per the RSA, it is required to have revenue, so you can pass it on to us,
Right.
Well, it's also required they provide you
I know
the
we
for.
don't apply, well, you do, you're supposed to get.
We're supposed to.
It's town
Supposed to.
board.
Yeah. So I have another question. So you have 2 paraprofessionals that are being contracted still, from what
I believe. So. Is that what my little chart said from what
So
I responded?
So from what I'm hearing and from what I'm trying to translate, why are we not, I know they're needed because there's 2 kids that have one-to-ones, and that's what they're being utilized for.
I will follow up because I thought at the last meeting we asked Caroline to post those positions so we could get them out of contract, but I don't know where that is in the process.
Yeah, and
so
I
I'll
mean,
follow
for
up.
me, it's a no-brainer, the second that's
Yeah.
being discovered, it's shown between the amount of special ed needs, the poor numbers, and the amount of kids that have a need for one-to-one services, whether it be for the entire day or part of the day, on top of everything else that's going on, it's a no-brainer. And then when Carolyn got up and, said it several times, how contracting services is so much more expensive and we have no control over it. Well, common sense would say,
Keep the positions open until they're filled.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then heavily
Yep.
recruit for them
Yep.
and address your paraprofessional pay scale.
that is on our agenda to deal with. We wanted to deal with the bus drivers and then we're gonna do the paraprofessionals. But I was told we didn't need any additional paras by the principal. So again, I can't add positions.
Well, they don't have a
They don't have a scale.
Well, right, but I'm just gonna say, just to be clear, last spring, they all got their salaries increased.
They did, but here's the problem, once again, because things were done hastily and not thought out.
Yep.
And they were, like, everything that's gone on with that school so far,
So I mean,
they
we're
did
trying.
not sit down and say, whoa, let's do what all the other towns are doing, because the paraprofessionals came forward and they presented all the other towns. And all the other towns had pay ranges, which they had pay scales. So instead of the school board saying, "Ooh, let's just pause, focus on this and come up with a pay scale," because what you're gonna find is next year, once they realize how much the bus drivers are making, and then the bus drivers are making according to what their experience, and they're getting paid according to what they have for certificates, the paraprofessionals are gonna want that, and now, because of your big pay jump that you did last year, now you're gonna have to do a bigger jump, so it's gonna cost us more, because you're gonna have to do a significant, because nobody that has 15 or 20 years is gonna wanna make the same thing. And that's what everybody's gonna start to save. So then you just kind of strong arm the taxpayer and have them just swallow the cost of it because of poor foresight of planning for the future, which is why we have a superintendent.
So I was having a discussion earlier today with another resident in town. They're not here, otherwise maybe they would bring it up. So Article 3 on the warrant article that says to see, that's to hire the diagnostic prescription teacher.
Mhm.
My understanding is that was in the budget, or at least their conversation, my conversation with them is that was in the budget, and it's also being put in as a separate warrant article.
No, we can't do both. It's not in the
Well,
budget.
no, you could do it. I'm coming down. So,
So with a lack of transparency, how can you know?
right, so, because I thought, when I was reading through some of this, there's a lot of paperwork, right? And some of the explanations for, and you can go on, I can see if I can find it on
Well, I know on like the proposed budget on this year, it had the DPT full-time position in here, but not on their warrant article. I don't know if that.
Let me see. Well, I mean, I think that if the warrant article goes through, she has that figure in there. What is this for? Yeah, sub-general fund. Yeah. But for the warrant articles. I will clarify that that's not in the budget currently. Do we need to read through the warrant articles?
We'll have to vote at them,
Okay.
on them, so they'll have to read through them all and vote on them.
Okay.
We won't have to vote on the first one because there's no money attached to it, so, but otherwise.
All right.
So you want to go through like the lines and, again, start voting.
So it's, remember the wages for the special ed that jumped to $200,000? The 357 to 5.
I gotta open my
It was
PDF
almost
to
200,000.
see what that answer
Yeah,
was.
the answer you gave us from the superintendent was, this is due to change in staff salaries and an additional 2 special ed paraeducators. So their raises for how many staff members for special ed?
I don't know how many teachers are qualified under special ed, under the collective bargaining agreement, but they would all fall under the collective bargaining agreement, whatever the special education teachers
But
are.
there are only a handful that are special ed,
I don't know exactly how many, yes, it's not a whole.
but just between raises for a handful of teachers, special ed teachers, and 2 paraprofessionals would be $200,000.
If that's what they're saying, then that's what I have to go by.
I think that's kind of where we have.
I think that's where the contract, yeah, and that's where the contract
And
piece
that's
is,
where the
yeah.
breakdown of the budget would have been.
But if those two positions,
Were the, so, okay.
And I don't know what the rate is, honestly, for special ed paraprofessionals versus what they're paying for the contract rate.
Well, those are the, I think those are the contract walk people. Those are the-
Right, but if we were to hire them, I don't know what we would be paying them and how much of a savings
It
that
would
would
be
be.
significantly less.
I don't know.
But do we have those 2 contract positions posted? Do we-
I have to follow up. I was told at the last meeting that they were going to do that, but I need to follow up.
So I got this breakdown of like the drivers, the budget drivers, and it says, so from what I can see, it says budget driver, I'm going to jump to budget driver number 3, tuition other area. You are ratio as well as BCBA support. So they have that breakdown all that. Well, my understanding is that sticking is now going on a district, so I don't know why that amount would still be in there in the other LA, because it could get picked up in the tuition, private tuition line. That comes up a total of 269,000, like, a couple of numbers, 278,40 and 269,3.
But the private tuition doesn't always cover all of the services under the IEP. There may still be additional services on top of the private tuition for BCBA that are not
Which
covered.
is just, that's for contract negotiating, which that's on the superintendent.
this is when it would be really nice to have them here to answer stuff like that.
I don't disagree. I asked them. It's their day off.
You know what, they shouldn't be asked, they should be told, your expectation, we are paying you
Well, obviously, they
$250,000.
don't care, this is their day off, so.
Well, you know
They
what,
care.
they're gonna find out that they have a lot of day off
Right.
for middle
That's my point.
because
A lot of people that off.
it's absolutely disgusting.
All I can say is the school board hears your concerns and are.
It would be nice to see you guys actually speak up in meetings and verbalize this. Because it feels as though there's like a lot of talking out of meetings.
So where do we stop?
I mean, yeah, we have to be cautious about certain things that we can't disclose in public.
I get, obviously, like, you can't talk about personal, that's like 91A stuff, but like the expectations of what we expect from the school board, that needs to be discussed.
So I did find the page, so it says, the 1,200 special education professional wages, so that includes Middleton Elementary School requests 3.5 special education teachers. My understanding is we have 3, and we have 0.5 opening, because that's according to this page that I have here. Because it lists the 3 teachers' names, I'm not going to name them, and then it says 0.5 PK teacher open. So, and then it says paraprofessionals at Middleton Elementary. We have 6 paraprofessionals supporting 33 students at the Middleton Elementary School. So right now we have, and then we have 1 paraprofessional funded via the IDA grant. And then 4 out of 6 Middleton KRMS students have a part-time para. Currently, the Middleton district does not include this support in their budget. 3 out of 15 Middleton KR high school students have a part-time para. Currently, Middleton does not include this support in their budget. They may not include it, but I believe we're paying. That's a whole other conversation. But I'm just saying, so that sheet does tell you how many paras that we have.
Thank you for pointing me to that sheet.
Yeah. So there was a question as to how many we're looking for and how many. I would suggest, having been on that side before, go through your warrant articles and then you go back, and I would suggest you just make a motion on your bottom line budget, and they can split it out however they want to, because if you try and sit here and try and figure out where you want to take it from, you'll be here till 9 o'clock like you were the last week.
Yeah.
That's just my
Well,
suggestion.
so, but I want to say specifically though, because like when we cut things, there's certain things that I want cut, like, I want, so like, for example, like, I don't believe you guys should be paid.
That isn't gonna matter. It's
And-
bottom line
That's right, it's
budget.
bottom
Like, I get it, but it's, but I'll be really disgusted if we cut this budget and you guys are still pulling a check. I don't care if it's $1 or $100,000 or anything in between. And our kids aren't getting things that they need because, well,
But
it's, and that's,
here all night and it's still
I
the
get
bottom line, so.
I get it,
Like
but
the year that we voted for no raises and they were given anyway. It's a
So I
bottom
think
line.
you're just, I think that's the approach you need to take. And then you can just express your concern once the budget, whatever budget passes, and then they allocate it appropriately. As is.
Do you want to
That's
start
what-
at,
That would be my recommendation, but
do you want to start at Article 3 and then back into the budget at the last one?
I would suspect that's your best.
yeah, might as well start with like easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we can.
Article 3, see if the Middleton School District will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $102,000, $102,220, requesting wages, benefits, taxes for the purpose of hiring a full-time diagnostic prescription teacher, teacher to case manage Middleton School District eligible students in grades 6 through 12. Oh, is that changed? 6 through 12?
Yeah, we did.
All right. Majority vote, it was estimated,
They don't.
yeah, that, yeah. So,
I think
they should be able to figure that one out.
Yeah, they should.
You need to-
Yeah.
School board recommended this 400.
So I
So
can
we
make a
vote.
motion to accept it to get you guys started.
So Robin, Patty put the motion out there,
Thank you.
and the motion to accept it.
What's the need for this?
Then you have someone has to second it.
I'll second it.
Now you can discuss that.
So there is, the services are being paid for and provided by the SAU for our Middleton and high school students. So the idea is to put it under our control so that we have some sort of a transition, because the kids go from, 20 kids in the class here up to 180 up there, and it's a culture shock for them. And the kids that are struggling and have IEPs, they don't get that continuity of service. So the idea was we were going to have this position that was dedicated for our Middleton students, because right now they're lumped in with all the other kids, and there's like 30 or 40 on their caseload that they have to work with. So these are people, this position will be dedicated to our students and be providing them with the IEP services and overseeing their plans as they transition to the higher grades. It's going to vary. I think it's like, what are we at, 20% currently? Let's see if it's on here, how many. So Middleton students with, let's see, Middleton School District, 56 currently. Let me see if they broke down how many.
There was an increase though, right, 58?
Correct, 58 for the high school and,
58 are students in high school. This thing
no,
says
15 out, sorry.
Elementary is 33.
Yeah, this says as of October 1st, the Middleton School District has 56 students, pre-K through 12, that have IEPs. As of December 22nd, that number increased to 58. But this teacher specifically deals with middle school and high school.
Yeah, it'll be 6th grade.
So they'll start last year here to help them and get to know them and then move them on.
I
So,
mean, I went from a school that had 30 kids in 8 grades to Kingswood, which had more towns going to it than it does now. It was a shell shock.
yeah,
I'll say
But
devil's
you learn to
advocate.
adjust.
You know what, I'll say devil's advocate for a kid that has special needs, it would be helpful, but given,
It would.
no,
But
so the thing is the average kid that just is going through and doesn't need any extra help or anything like that, like, that's fine, it's a culture shock because it's more. But for, you know, a kid like my child or another child who's on an IEP and who has special needs, and there's a lot more hands in the plate, it would be, it would be helpful, but my thing is this, we're not addressing any of our problems that we have now to take corrective action. What good is this one person gonna be moving forward for our kids if we're not addressing all of the other things that are going on? And I think we need to take that money and focus on what our real issues are, so by the time that they're getting up to junior high, that they're needing less. Because the whole point, when you start talking about special needs and services and everything, it's all about early intervention. So if our school district is doing their job appropriately and taking advantage of all of that early intervention, theoretically, the kids won't need as much once they get up to junior high and high school. If our budget wasn't so out of control and if it wasn't so muddied and lack of transparent, I'd be all for this. But I can't support something like this right now because I can't guarantee that the money's going to go where it needs to go, that the person in the position is going to only focus on our kids, and that things are going to be done accordingly. I personally can't support it. I love the idea, but we can't afford it.
I know we've had lots of discussion about the fact that if this position does get put through, that we will be keeping an eye on the fact that that does need to be dedicated to our students, and we expect that they're not going to be pulled off of any other Middleton students.
How are you going to keep an eye on that, though? Because honestly, you're not keeping an eye on what's going on down in that building. And you're not keeping an eye on what the superintendent is not doing. If she's got time to micromanage 91As, she's not doing everything else that she needs to do for us, like grants. I mean, I can't support it because financially we can't afford it.
do you have the tax impact?
I don't, because I don't have, I didn't bring any of that paperwork with me.
We have access to last year's, because we did the same thing last year. It would be a small increase, but you can have an idea of where we are. I know, I didn't bring that bag with me. I don't remember. It was increased, but not drastically from last year. I would think it's ballpark. I wouldn't pull that out.
It was 28 cents.
Okay.
It was 28 cents wrong last year. But the same one.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put that in, but it's going to be somewhere around here. Gives you a good
It's
idea.
kind of followed my my line of thinking. So this is currently something we have, we don't pay for, right? Right, is that right?
We also have oversight control over it, yes.
Right. But in 246 years from now, we're gonna be paying the same amount, but we're gonna actually paying more because we have this one person.
No, they're going to start billing us for the students that they're providing service for up there. And we will have no control over what those
They're
rates are.
basically cornering us to spend money regardless. They're forcing our arm.
Right, well, say they weren't gonna force, like, they weren't doing that, right? Say they weren't doing that. But if this goes through, right, we're paying $102,000. But then next year, we have an increase of like, what, 2,000 for the next 5 years. But then, once we get to that point, we'll be paying more than the other schools because we'll be paying this as well.
We love the same person.
Do you understand what do you understand? Like,
Yeah.
that's my
But then the
opinion.
other thing is this $102,220, this is just in theory. Because with the school board and this SAU comes back to us year after year, position after position, we found somebody, but they're being hired in at $50,000 more because, well, they have a lot more experience and they were a great candidate. Is this position built into that CBA?
It would be, that's why it's on the warrant article, because in order to add it, we have to put it that way, so it is a CPA.
What's a contract with the SAU say about this? Does it say that they are paying for it? Does it say that they were going to bill us for it?
I would
Because
have
if
to
they
read,
don't say that they're going to bill us for it, I don't know how
They wouldn't be able to, that's because, so the contract for the tuition doesn't have anything listed about who pays for special ed.
it does, it says we specifically pay for special ed, but let me pull it out.
Well, then that's on them for not billing us if they're going to sit there.
I don't
and
disagree, I don't disagree with you, it's like we're kind of like waiting and waiting for them to send us the bill, and they haven't sent us one.
So,
But
and all the other towns, I mean, and it's hard, I think, in a sense with the other towns, because the other towns are actually part of that school district, which we are our own.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's a little harder in that sense, because also too, like, that school budget over there gets split against, what, 6 other towns, and it's just us carrying this along. So I assume that it would have to be built into those individual school district budgets, or like,
yeah, Middleton shall be charged regular education tuition rates for all students with special education, 504, and other needs. However, any supplemental cost for the special education 504 accommodations, including but not limited to, and it goes through everything, shall be the responsibility of Middleton in addition to the regular education tuition rate.
I wonder if this was just not in the last one. If that wasn't written into the last contract, but this is the newest contract, right? That we just signed with them
I
for.
believe so. Which I think. Well, my understanding is the people that weren't in the negotiations left, and they had like, I think Rebecca had like a week to sign it. So,
Do we have
You know, there's ways to handle that though, because you can always say, we need an extension, we've had a change in board. That's just,
are we good? Can we vote and get ready?
I'm ready to go.
Do you have any idea how much they're going to charge? For a student or that,
no.
this position? You want to vote?
Well,
I mean, in theory, though, it can't be all that much, because while we have 58 students, actually 55, since we have 3 of them out of district, majority of them sit over here right now, and not at the high school.
Yeah, I think there was an 8 and a 15 between the
Yeah, there's 33 here, and there's, 15 at the middle high school, so I mean, yeah. Okay.
ready to go?
Good.
Yes, we will, yes.
Yeah, all in favor of voting.
I can tell you what the impact would be now. On 100,000, it would be like 28 cents.
That's what I said.
Yeah, that's what it was last year. I thought it went up a little bit, but maybe.
Well, but it all depends on what the new rate details are for the tenants and stuff, so that's why I don't want to.
Are we doing roll call votes, or are we just gonna do? Usually just public vote. I'm no.
Loud so I can hear guys.
No. No.
No.
She needs a count.
Wait.
She needs a count.
Oh, you should get it.
Okay, no, but I'm just saying, she needs a count.
No.
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 No. No.
Yes.
6 and 1.
But if they do come back with an amount.
Actually, that would be 1 in 6.
Right, you need, like, we should negotiate, you should like negotiate that.
Yeah.
Like if they, if the SAU was to come to you and say, we're gonna charge $80,000.
Then it becomes a legal battle, because they're going to say you're contracted to pay it, this is the bill. So now we have to get
Well, then they'll have
Take
to
it.
figure out what line they're gonna pull from, and that's on the school
Yeah.
board.
Yep.
Next one, yep.
Article 14, okay. To see if the Middleton School District will vote to raise and appropriate up to the sum of $100,000 to be added to the Special Education Trust Fund previously established. This sum comes from the June 30, 2026 fund balance available for transfer on July 1st, 2026. No amount to be raised from taxation.
All right, then, article.
Second.
How's their fund balance?
There won't be.
It just means that
So if there's any money left over.
anything left
the
over.
fund balances.
Yeah.
I mean, you hope it might be a little bit, well, at least enough to.
To do this one.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, move to
Yes.
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 Yeah.
7-0.
Article 5, to see if the Middleton School District will vote to raise and appropriate up to the sum of $50,000 be added to the bus capital reserve fund previously established. This sum is to come from the June 30th, 2026 fund balance available for transfer on July 1st, 2026. No amount to be raised from taxation.
I'll recommend it. I'll second. So I just had a question. So let's say our fund balance is 100,000. How do
They go in the order that they're written.
get
Yeah.
our?
So if we have two, we have enough left for the first two, that's all it goes, or whatever.
Last thing was mine.
Same thing at the town.
And that's why we restructured them this year.
Stacy, you wanna vote?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Article 6, see if the Middleton School District will vote to raise and appropriate up to the sum of $75,000 to be added to construction, renovation, repair fund previously established. This sum to come from June 30th, 2026, fund balance available to transfer on July 1st, 2026. No amount to be raised from taxation.
I'll recommend it. I'll second.
Is that okay?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Article 7, see if the Middleton School District will vote to appropriate a sum of $300,000, up to $300,000 to be added to the Special Education Trust Fund previously established. This sum to come from the additional Medicaid reimbursement fund and special education aid received from the state of New Hampshire during the current fiscal year, 25-26 school year. No amount to be raised from taxation.
A motion to accept it. I'll second it. Historically, where has the money been coming when we get Medicaid reimbursement and special education aid? Where does it go
My understanding is it just goes back into the operating budget.
for the school? Yeah. So the schools don't decide.
This is saying that it will go right into that fund. I just don't, Roxanne brought up some good points about the money and where it goes. I don't like that this wasn't ready for last week and then,
Yeah, and I apologize. I pulled it only because it had the wrong amount, and I thought we were having a fast one. I said, no, we're not putting that in.
I don't see how we can even, like, consider this if we don't have those questions answered. Can we actually pull it from last year?
The current year,
Yeah.
current year's revenues.
This was approved through legal from our end, so.
it's approved for legal on how it's written, but they don't necessarily.
I just don't understand, I mean, I would like.
No, we
the
asked her if
concept
we could do
explained.
that.
Right.
Like, this is feasible, so.
If this was in
going back to the operating budget last year, we should see it in the revenue, right?
Yeah,
Sure.
that's probably gives that, well,
Yeah, it did show it.
No, 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 look at your revenues, it's not showing.
No, it's not. I didn't see it.
Heather is, that's a question for Heather that she's going to follow and say, what line does it fall in? Because we think it might be one of that miscellaneous revenue or the other, that there's nothing budgeted for this year or next year.
so if the money, if revenue is coming in during that current cycle, they can, that goes into, they can use that towards the budget, correct?
Yeah, your revenues offset your revenues offset your appropriations, so that brings down your tax rate. So basically, they're gonna say, we're gonna take $300,000 from this year that could ultimately offset the expenses they have and apply it to next year's, well, apply it to the
That capital reserve.
capital reserve account. So basically, then when we have a 300, if we have, say, we'll just use $300,000, because that's what it says, $300,000 shortfall, kind of, we need to raise that, we need to raise taxes for that.
And they can only, and you guys can, they can only pull from that capital reserve fund if it's an unforeseen expense,
Unanticipated.
unanticipated.
Correct.
Correct.
Not normal.
So once again, this is like poor planning, this is just poor planning all the way around. It's,
No, I think the idea that Ken Gary brought it up was that we know we're not going to need it. We know we're going to use what we have. And that was really smart of us to put it in. And it's not, we're not looking on the landscape of special education like this is going to improve. You're going to have kids that are going to come in that are going to end up needing more needs than what you're currently doing. So plan for it and build it in so that you can have it available if you do need it. So that was the reason that we wanted to put in and replace what we had anticipated we were going to need this year to be able to do that.
okay. But hear me out, that money would never have been pulled had the SAU and the school and everybody did their job appropriately. And to say that like, oh, we didn't know that money was going to be pulled for those two kids going out, I'm sorry, but it's still like a shitty answer. Sorry for the, like, the lack of the better, it is to say that like, oh, we didn't know, it was, the behaviors need to change because we are throwing so much money at it and it's not fixing it. And I just don't like the idea of like, we're getting money in that could support the budget and support the school currently, but we're gonna wait and tuck it away for something, if something happens that it's unexpected. It's just, you gotta fix your problems now. Somebody has to tap the brakes and fix the problems now, or address the problems now.
How much is in the special education trust fund now?
After what we withdrew, I don't have the
It was
figure. It was,
377,000.
yeah, I think it was like, so it's going to be 170 something is what's left after we did the 200
Yeah,
withdrawal.
so they're basically just bleeding it dry because of poor planning and poor acknowledgement of the issues. That's really what it is. That's what it is.
So money, so money was pulled out of the trust fund this year for operating.
They both-
That's what they just voted on.
Not for the unanticipated expenses.
The unanticipated expenses are.
One of the out of districts, yep.
Sent out of district, which it's not Heather, sorry. So it's not, like, you've got to call up the SAU on it. It's not. As somebody who has a nephew that went through, my sister went through the process with my nephew, it was, the town knew it was gonna happen a year and a half, 2 years in the making. It's, you foresee it, but there's procedures that are in place that they gotta go through, hoops that everybody has to jump through before it's finally determined, like, yes, it needs to be placed out of district, because we can't provide. So, the SAU, with all of their wisdom and education, should be using it to say, hey, we gotta be proactive here, because this kid potentially, within the next year or two, is gonna have to be tuitioned out. So we need to plan ahead. And if they plan ahead and they budget accordingly and they do everything accordingly and it doesn't happen, then, whew, but at least they thought about it. These guys didn't think about it.
So sending these two kids out of district cost us over $500,000.
Three, it's three, right? You said these three kids.
I thought you said it was 800,000.
No, I think it's just under 200 for the school.
No,
It's like 190 something.
Before they made the vote, back on January 7th, the special ed fund had $376,176.63.
So now, so.
And
We took 2 out.
yes, when you place a kid with special needs out of district, you have to tuition out, it can be anywhere from like 100 to 200,000 or better, depending on what the needs are.
My understanding of the budgetary requirements is that we're not allowed to throw in budget amounts for things like that they have to base it on what the current expenditures are. That was how Kathy explained it to me, that when we're calculating these
There are
expenses, we can't,
There are better ways.
like, she builds in 1 extra student, but even that has been taken out in previous years out of the budget, you know, as a buffer, because she was told, we're not going to give you that buffer. So I think that I'm not saying they're not without culpability at all, but I am saying, I think that them coming to us with specific details of the child and their needs, and that this is coming and we're going to have these huge expenses, I think they did bring it to our attention. I want to say it was like November timeframe. So
So right now, we have about 1 child worth of going out of district. right?
Not even, because they're going to keep paying it out as the invoices come in.
I have a question. So it says the school board recommends this 500. You did not have this warrant article at our meeting last week. When did you vote on that?
we voted on it at the January meeting. So this was not done in December where we did with the rest. This was added in at the January meeting.
But then why didn't we have it for last week?
Because it had $100,000 in it, which is not correct.
But then we didn't vote on this.
No, we did vote on it.
No, it did.
No,
The number was wrong.
Sorry, we didn't vote on the language. We voted to approve that it be submitted and that it be proposed to you guys.
So let me ask,
But that's,
if there was, let's just say $0 in this fund, and kids needed to be sent out of the district, what would happen?
But if there was no money, they'd have to pull it from the budget somewhere. If it's a bottom line budget, so they'd have to find money.
They would, we have to, we are legally obligated to pay for those kind of services and to pay for the tuition out. Heather, when, backing up here, for this money, if it does not go into this special education fund, did you say it goes into the general operating fund and then we lose control over it? Because if that's the case, there is, that is wrong. Like, that is wrong on so many levels.
I will check with that.
That is part of your job as school board. Like, you're signing things, you're signing off on invoices, correct?
Well, so I'm
signing
saying,
off
like,
on-
when that money comes back, when the reimbursement comes back to the school,
It should go in the lines that it was,
it is very like, so Medicaid reimbursements are restricted. So they can't spend it on whatever they feel like spending it on.
so if it's been regulated for speech therapy, it should go back into that line that supports that student getting speech
Right, but
therapy.
if they're paying speech therapy out of the general fund because they haven't been reimbursed yet, and then they're throwing the money back into the general fund to
But
reimburse
if that
what
money
they
can't
paid.
be used on anything else. So like, that money,
That's wrong.
when it goes, when it goes,
Well, that's what I'm saying, let me ask, I don't know how she's
Like,
running the book.
if it does get put into the general fund, like, that reimbursement can't be used to pay salary increases. It's basically what it, that's all I'm asking. I mean, I'm so ready to vote on this.
one second, so I still don't,
If the special education, so I see special education aided in red.
Mhm.
They can,
so what you're asking for is that we vote on it with the wrong number, and then put it on here,
I
that they
was-
have to vote.
I was under the, sorry guys, I was under the understanding that they voted on the 300, but it was typed wrong.
Correct,
That's right.
typed
What they
wrong
did.
for last week.
That's the understanding that I had, is that it was
And I was
typed wrong.
misunderstanding.
I apologize, I might not have been there on that.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Okay. So the special education aid and, probably Medicaid reimbursement is in the revenue now. So what you're asking for is for that revenue, those, however much money that is, you see the special education aid is anticipated for 30,000 for the 2026 year. So you're asking for that money to go away, so to go into the special education trust fund so that the taxpayers would have to raise another 30,000 worth of money that would normally be in the revenue, right? And the Medicaid reimbursement that would normally be in the revenue. So that money would go there. Now, this money still has to be raised.
Well, that, none of that money is like guaranteed money.
Yeah.
So it's not guaranteed, but theoretically, that if we are getting reimbursement for Medicaid for kids that need speech, OT, whatever that Medicaid would cover and reimburse for, even though that money's already been taken out because of our budgeted line, that line should then be, I would imagine, would it be credited, like on a bookkeeper's end, Sarah?
So that it was
Due from, but, in that instance, but it would, your hope would be that it would be shown that it offsets, like you pay out $500, you get that reimbursement back. Yeah, but a lot of times too, with Medicaid reimbursements, those don't actually come in until after the fiscal year has ended. And so basically, they are allowed to do it this way. I don't like it, when it feels messy, it feels wrong, but they are allowed to do this. I understand what they're trying to, I understand what Ken's theory was, but I think the big thing is nobody is addressing the big problem. This is another Band-Aid. Until we address the problems, until we address the poor behaviors, poor practices, this is gonna just continue to happen, and it's gonna continue to cost us more and more and more. So I think poor behavior needs to be addressed.
So is it to build up the special education fund faster?
Try to replace what they just took out.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. So is it just, I'm still not sure I understand. So what's considered revenue now is going to go into this trust fund that is tied up for a very specific purpose that is not in the operating budget. So the amount of money that you guys need to operate still needs to be funded by the taxpayers, and we no longer have any of this reimbursement to offset any of those expenses. Is that, am I getting that correct?
I believe so, but we don't use that money to offset
But
the
didn't you also
income
use
anyway.
the revenues for last year to pay the insurance, the health insurance for the teachers?
Unexpected revenues, that's what was said. Unexpected revenues came in and they had that for being used to
Yeah.
pay.
So what was the unexpected revenue?
The bus fare, what I was told.
But I thought we only got like $2,000 for the buses.
Yeah.
So I'm
So where are the other, but, that,
And granted,
what,
it's not, I don't mean to like beat
It's
up
not
on you guys,
guaranteed, yeah.
that's the point is like.
so like,
They could show $30,000 for revenue, and we actually get nothing.
I want to get some money.
So either way.
and then I want to bring up the other thing is that if some of that revenue that was used to pay the health insurance for the staff, if any of that money was Medicaid revenue, that's fraud. That's insurance fraud.
That should have went to, my opinion, that should have went to fund those warrant articles that didn't get funded.
Yeah,
Right?
but I mean, if you're getting revenue, if you're getting money or reimbursement from Medicaid, and you're not using it for those services, that would be fraud. So if you're using it to pay teachers' insurance, health insurance, but, so. So you want to vote? Okay, move to vote.
No.
No, yes.
No.
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 Yes.
All right, fun one.
Okay. Yeah, it's a long one, I know.
Article 2, the average cost per pupil for the preceding year as calculated in accordance with the RSA 189, you say Jackson, colon, 75, L, parentheses, A, is $19,699.66.
60
Oh, 60 cents, sorry. ELA proficiency, 32%. Math proficiency, I'm sorry, my mouth is too dry. Is 39%. Science proficiency is 43%. Shall the Middleton School District raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately? The amount set forth on the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by the vote of the first session for the purpose set forth therein totaling, whatever you do there, should this article be defeated, the default budget being $6,448,397, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by previous actions of the Middleton School District or by law, or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with the RSA 40:13 F. What is it, numbers, or did I say X10, 10, and 16? No, 16. To take up the issue of revised operating budget only. Note, this warrant article for operating budget does not include appropriations requested in any of the other articles. The school budget recommends the $6,855,832 by a vote of 3-1-0. The Middleton Budget Committee recommends, whatever we decide on by vote, estimated impact on this amount is the increase of certain amount per thousand, resulting in the estimated tax of
Did anyone figure out what the increase would be if it was up to?
Yeah, we can get that motion.
I'll recommend that.
I'll second that.
Okay.
I second it.
Danielle did. I heard it.
So go ahead, Tracy.
You're good. So, did anybody figure out what the increase in tax rate or that to the requested amount and we know it has increased?
So I can tell you based off of last year's, the tax increase was going to go up $10.61. So you gotta understand, the school budget is on like a 2-year lag. So last year, the budget that got approved in February of this past year, you won't see that impact until the bill of November of this year. So we went up from a tax rate, so if we look at it, so if you had your latest tax bill, the tax school rate is 898. Now it's going to go up according to this thing to 1061 this fall. So that's an increase of almost $2. Now I believe if I do the math right, I might not be doing the math right. It's going to go up again another with this 1.2 million, which is going to be more. It's going to go up at least probably $3.
So the $2 is for default.
No. Oh, yes, the $2 for the budget that got approved in February of last year.
Right.
Again, but you won't see until this July, this November.
Oh, that's right.
Because your year goes from July to June. With towns, whatever, we're only on a 1-year lag, the school's on a 2-year lag.
I see. Okay, so with the requested amount of the 6.8 million, how much, what would that school's tax rate be then?
I'm guessing based off of these numbers, and I don't, not,
Approximately.
not,
Yeah, I know.
so I
it's $2 less than what our total tax rate is now.
And remember, the town has a 2% tax now.
So for the 6.8 million, it's gonna go like 13 something. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, probably about that.
Once it's all said and done. we got it.
And then
Last
additional,
year's,
whatever
that
the-
and the $500,000, plus $500,000, they increased it last year. Now you're looking to do another 1.2 million.
But if the town also votes to put in that DPT position,
Right, so
that would then
28
go to-
Well,
cents.
that's gonna be another 28 cents on your tax.
So how much would it go up for the default budget? 6.4. Yep.
Still,
Can't imagine it would go up. Yeah. So it looks like it's about 8 cents per 100,000. Is that about right? If that position was going to cost us 28
Yeah,
cents.
28 cents.
28 cents per 100,000.
Yes, if you take your 6.2 billion out of it, once they're sitting down, we can't do that.
I would like to realistically, I would like to see that the school board cut the vacant full-time bus driver position. So that would take away $32,460.54. That would bring that wage line to that number. If you cut that position out, you only have 2 large school buses, and you've already got 5 drivers.
Well, for that bill, that would be the thing.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got 4 active employees, and you've got 2 large school buses.
But they're only paid when they work, and I think the idea of having 3 is the backup.
Right, but that's also, but then even if they're only paid when they work, like when they work, we're budgeting that for $36,000.
Yeah.
They, if they're only paid, for the hours they work, they're not working that much.
And if you don't have a bus for them to drive.
Yeah.
They can't do it. Their whole job is to drive a bus. I will say that if you guys come forward trying to use money from that bus fund, you really need to look into all of the grants that are out there. I mean, there's a great, go ahead, Roxanne.
Oh, yes, actually, Jim gave me information, well, he didn't give it to me, it's in his lunchbox.
You showed it to me and then I said.
It's, the green diesel, I can give you the information, I can give it, yeah, I can get it for you.
Put it in Tim's mailbox.
But it's,
While you're up
it's
there.
green diesel, and it's basically, I think they call it green diesel or something like that, but it's basically funding, like, you have to put on so many miles on your vehicle in the year, whereas the town, we don't, because we just do plowing,
Yeah.
but the buses go year round, so they probably would hit the mileage requirement, and I don't know how much the funding is, but I can grab.
It's 50, so the grant, Jim showed it to me a few years ago when I was on the select board and they were trying to go for it. They went to like all of the meetings, they really tried to get it, but they just missed the mileage on their oldest truck. But it was gonna cover the cost of 50% of the truck, like the whole thing, like the whole plow, all of it. So it's a really good deal.
Yeah, thank you for passing that on.
Yeah,
But this is something that the SAU should be looking into, like this is what the superintendent should be looking into instead of,
yeah, because if you can get 50, if it's 50%, I don't know what it is, but even if it's 50%.
Yeah, that
you
saves
can
us
technically buy 2
2
buses
buses
for
for the
the
same
price
cost,
of
exactly, yeah.
yeah.
one. Yeah, I can pull the paperwork, I'll grab it and, we have one selected, we give it to Tim.
Thank you. Yep.
But I think that line needs to be cut, which then would cut the FICA. Like I said before, I believe in those other cuts. I don't know what anybody feels for a number.
So just in looking at the overall, it looks like if it's about 28 cents per 100,000, it looks like if we go with the default budget, it'll be close to $2.80 increase. And if we go with the proposed budget, it looks like it'll be $3.65 increase approximately. On top of the 1061 that it's going to be
so we're already looking at $1.87. Anybody have a number that they're thinking?
You could start with, would you be willing to just use the default number, or you want to go less? Then you need to come up with
Yeah,
6
yeah.
million? I'm just gonna throw out there, so you know, what is the board's nobody's come.
What else we have, they're gonna motion at the meeting, I'm sure, to put it back up.
Of course, yeah, but that's like,
That's when we need the townspeople there to stop that. So last year's default budget would have been $5,599,854.
what did they,
One more time?
what was used last year? Like,
Right, you mean for default or the regular?
no, how much money did we spend last year for the budget?
Their actual, like, so that was 25, right? That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
So their actual that they spent was $5,153,776.97.
How much did they spend this year?
$5,153,776.97. Because that's what's on here of their 2025 actual.
Well, is it 26 though?
They're in
20,
26 now.
so you have, what's the 26 say? Oh, you don't know, oh, so you don't necessarily know because we're not
Yeah.
in that year, sorry.
Yeah, well, their budget for 26 is $5,563,503.40.
No, what the ask was 5.7 million.
That was the 26 proposed.
Right, that's what I think we
Yeah.
were saying. So I need to go back one more year.
Yeah.
So when they closed the books out on June 31st, this is how much they spent?
Yeah,
For 2025, or fiscal year 2025, yes.
Yes.
Which would have been 24 to 25.
So like, okay.
Because this year is 25, 26, it's fiscal year 26.
How did you guys come so far under budget?
Well,
No, we were right in line because the budget for 25 was $5,153,812.34. And we spent $5,153,776.67. So we were,
Oh, I see that.
Yeah.
Five.
yeah, the 26 budget is higher.
Yeah, okay.
and so the budget that they're,
I see, but it happened.
I will just, I'm just going to say this because I have to. The things that are in there that are required are special education and the contracted services. So putting us in a position where we can't cover those is going to get us school sued. I just need to put that out there and let you know that that is a very real possibility and probably will happen if we cannot provide special education services and we have to fire teachers against the collective bargaining agreement.
Well, I mean, that's something that the school board and the SAU should have figured out then.
I mean, that, because they can't just, you guys can't just keep increasing and saying more, like,
Right.
there's gotta be a point. I mean, it's just like when you run your house, you can't just keep spending money that you don't have.
I agree.
And there are many grants that they could be going for, and why are they not?
I think part of the problem is that, you know, you had said that part of the driver for this increase was special ed.
Mhm.
And so I see two additional accounts that are going out for contracts, out of school.
Yeah.
District. Well, I was talking about a number. And I see out of that, last 6,000 each child approximately, is what it looks like you guys pulled out of the special education trust fund. I don't see the rest of it. I don't see the rest of that.
They pulled out the trust fund money because they weren't expecting to put 2 kids into.
No, I get that, but you had said that the ask for this huge 1.3 million increase was special education. So the only things that I really see different from the previous budget into this budget for special education is just some teacher raises and
and these kids going out of our school district, what, I mean,
There's also some that need more help.
okay, so a couple 100,000 here and maybe 100,000, I don't see 1.3 million is.
Because they're not answering our questions and showing
I
us.
think that kind of boils down to trust. We just, we don't see where the money's going, and we don't trust when somebody says, oh yeah, we need an extra $200,000 for some teacher salary increases in 2 paras. I get that that would be an increase, I don't see 200,000, no.
That
It
was
was
in
just-
what was provided by
Right, but then
Kelly
we're
Mass.
also
where she-
being told that it was told that SAU to post those 2 contracted para positions, which they still have not. So if those 2 positions were to get posted and filled, they're no longer contract, they will be cheaper, we will no longer need a $200,000 increase to that line. Therefore, if they're not, we are not seeing anybody do their due diligence to lower this budget or to work with numbers. They're taking the path of least resistance, which is spend. So I want to move to vote, if we could.
Well, you're gonna make a motion to.
I'll make a motion that we
For the,
vote.
Well, I just want to direct Tracy to the documents that were provided by Kelly Mass, which did provide you with contracts, with figures, with information and details.
I didn't see.
So we've got,
I was going through all the paperwork that was sent, so.
this would have been what was sent beginning of January.
$400,000, and there's just no way you can't use it, you can't do it.
No, beginning of January.
Dance monkey dance.
So
Well under that.
I will give you, this is my copy, but you can take a look.
So what do we need to do now? Do I need to make?
Knocking everything over
proposing
here.
that We do a flat 6 million on the side. I make a motion for 6 million. I'll second that.
Can we just discuss it first before?
No, that's
Well,
fine.
the motion has to be made and
The
then
motion has to be made
discussed.
in second, so right now they're at 6 million.
And you guys are gonna have to discuss it. I'm leaving it.
There you go.
I have to go home to my kid.
She can't run the house by herself.
Not that one. I'll trust her.
Come on.
Put some Oreos, it'll be fine.
So a flat 6 million is a $400,000 increase.
No.
No.
It's
From $400,000 increase from the previous year's budget.
No, it's more than that.
What was the question? Previous year's budget was 5,600,000, right?
Wait a minute. Yes, you're right, yeah.
So it's just over $400,000.
Like I said, we cut the budget over 400,000 one year. They said they couldn't do it, and they came in well below the budget. They have to learn to work with what they have, just like you have to do with
They
your
have to,
own
you know,
budget.
no, they have to learn to work. The SAU needs to learn to work. We pay them a significant amount of money. They need to do their job. Bottom line.
So just put on this, so you're gonna vote, this is gonna go to deliberative.
Yeah.
So.
Somebody's gonna
what
examine
you're-
what they're
I mean, you can
agreeing
sit
to.
here and discuss the number all night,
Yeah,
but deliberative
absolutely.
is most likely going to get amended.
Yeah.
And then people at that meeting will decide ultimately what number is gonna go there. You know, not the, but I mean, you as the budget committee is saying, our due diligence based off what we know, information we have, this and that, we are going to recommend $6 million.
So Heather, I did see this paperwork before. It was my understanding that these are all positions that we are already utilizing, right? It isn't that much of an increase for a speech therapist and a school psychologist. And those aren't all new, right?
The school psychologist and the speech therapist, they're all contracted. It's not,
But we've been paying for them. Like this year, we're already utilizing them, correct?
Are we talking about the ones up or the current ones in the elementary school?
The ones that are listed on your sheet right here. The ones that you have purchased, that I think we're utilizing now because it's purchase service agreements. So I did see all these,
Okay.
but those, I mean, they all seem like ones that are in our current
because we're providing those services this year, but they were not in the budget last year, which is why we're over and having to pull from the trust fund.
So none of these positions were in the budget last year?
Not the positions, those are contracted services we're paying out for.
Right, so I get that. So none of these contracted services were in the budget last
I
year?
can't say that none of them were, but I know that not everything that we had in the budget is what we are currently providing. But there were a lot of additional educational needs that we had to provide that were not budgeted for, which is why we had to pull from it, which is why they've had to now increase the budget for next year, because they're looking at what we're currently spending. And that's what we're currently spending, is all that information.
So because what the superintendent is saying is that when you have contracted services for special ed especially, there's no cap. But the state doesn't say you can't go up 25% year after year, you can only go up 2%. So basically what the superintendent is using as the excuse is, well, we have no control over like that inflation, and that's what we have to pay. Which in fact they do, because you can just go and you can find other people and negotiate, or you can consider this is causing way too much money and 25% of our kids are using special ed services, so why not just have them in-house and make the cost cheaper?
I get that. What I'm saying is, it was my understanding when I looked at these paperwork, that these are contracted services or positions that we are already utilizing and we are already paying for, that was in the budget for the previous year.
Yes, yes, no. Not in the budget for this.
So the hard part I'm coming to is, it would have been nice, and I know it's too late, but it would have been nice to say, okay, here's why we need the 1.3 million, $200,000 for this child going out of our district, $100,000 for a speech therapist, $200,000. When I
Break it down to what we don't get.
Yeah.
when I look at this paperwork, I see services and I get it. I get that kids need this stuff. What I didn't realize is that, or which ones aren't in our budget now. So how do I make an educated decision on, okay, yes, we need this speech therapist, that's going to cost $100,000. Okay, $100,000 is here. Yes, we need these kids going out of network, that's going to cost $300,000. I get that. I don't know. I don't get it. I can't make an educated understanding.
Like Roxanne said, a lot of this is going to be amended and discussed at.
It'll be discussed again at the deliberative.
Can I just say and announce, I have Sierra on, she wanted to be able to call in and continue to be part of the meeting. So she's here with us on the phone.
So, and I totally get what you're saying, Tracy, because yes, it's not, for lack of a word, transparent, right? To say, this is what we had for the services last year. All of a sudden, we've had these unanticipated, which I find a little hard, because you knew these students at the end of last year, and then we're going into the next year, so we're calling them unanticipated so we can actually turn the money from the special education fund. Yeah, and that's what it's there for, unanticipated, you know. But again, I'm going to walk on the tangent here, small tangent, whatever. So we talk about the special education costs. I've been at every school board meeting. I missed one maybe back in June. And I can assure you, I have not heard conversations about special education that we're going to be lacking in that until maybe we got to the budget. And that was maybe one meeting. It was never discussed in September. It was never discussed in October. And I know Caroline had said, you know, we've discussed it at several meetings. Well, if I go back and read minutes, I'm not seeing anything about special education. And I mean, I get it. Services are needed. But to what extent of some of those numbers are they numbers that are including these students who now going out of district, but these were the numbers if they don't go out of district? Because my understanding is when the budget was being, and it's all fluid, right? It's all moving, is when the budget got put together, one of the students hadn't been placed out of district yet. So I think some of the numbers might have been encompassing that student staying in district. So we need all these services to keep in district, but now the student is going out of district, so now we need to take the money from special education to pay for that. And I just don't understand, you know, when the budget was being made, there were still some decisions being made about students being in district, out of district. and how did the budget come up with, can we say, these numbers are based off of, yes, these are, because I think now the numbers do have tuition for the 3 kids that go, however many kids, I don't know, go out of district. But I don't necessarily know that the other special education lines were adjusted for those services down because now those students are going out. Because yes, like an 800,000, the most majority of the increase, it's like 800, 900,000 dollars in special education. And I find it very hard to accept to say, nobody saw this coming. I mean, if we had something like that on the town side, holy cow, we would be right across the goal line. Granted, the school board is getting across the goal for this or whatever, but, and again, we're looking at $6.2 million, recommended $6.2 million, or no, $6.8 million budget. The town is looking at a $2 million budget, and we're taxing at 2%. So we struggle in trying to find money to potentially cover contract increases, garbage. We have a big issue with that, in trying to provide our employees with the cost of living, and whatnot. So I just don't know. I think because it's such a moving target, the budget, I don't necessarily know that all the numbers in there are skimmed down to, okay, these are the kids going out of district costs, and then these are the costs for all the other students who have given us for special education. I feel some of that money, these kids who are out of district might still, some of their services might still be in. I could be wrong, I don't know. But again, like I said, it's a fluid document, because we call it business work, right? It's evolving until you get to the deliberative, where then it becomes, this is what the people decided they want to vote on. So that's just my 2 cents.
Just off the top of your head, a couple $100,000 increase for these 2 kids that are new going out of district. There's what else? What are the big, huge chunks?
Contractual raises for the teachers.
Which is how much?
For special education, I don't know the exact figure.
Yeah, see that.
But this is what they gave us as the categories.
This is stuff that we've been asking.
Yeah.
And we don't get.
But just like big chunks, I mean, 1.3 million is a huge number. And 800,000,
Yeah, it was-
900,000 for just special ed.
No, it was like
increases.
750, I think, or 775 was for special ed.
Where are the big chunks just for special ed?
So what I have here is the increases are the contractual raises for the teachers that are special ed, the 2 paraprofessionals, the contracted services for speech, occupational, physical therapy, and behavioral supports, and then the tuition costs for the out-of-placement and private programs.
So just,
So that's what that $775,000 is.
But if they went ahead and they hired the 2 paraprofessionals and had them in-house versus contracted out, that would save a very good chunk of money.
So do you have this sheet right here, Tracy?
yes.
So if you look at it, so regular allocation is a 5.49 increase. You know,
No.
which year?
Which one is that? Is that the revenue or the other?
No, it's the proposed. So look, so your regular education, this is teacher salaries and stuff like that, it's going up 5.5%. And it's telling me how much more it's there. Special education is going up that 76. The next one, this is a big driver. Your health insurance, it's going up 100, it's going up 30, 40,000. And then it's your office of superintendents, that's going up 56,000. So then it's your transportation, which, that one's kind of the one that's the, moving tired around higher, but that's, yeah.
But the largest driver is still special education. But where's the big chunk, the $800,000? And I get that we need.
You can keep asking that question all day long. We've been asking it for months and months now. We haven't gotten clear answers, which is why I specifically said I would like copies of all of the contracts and copies of it. So, I mean, you've got, honestly,
Even if we had.
you have better chances of going outside and banging your head on the ground and seeing a better outcome than you do getting an answer.
Even if we had all the
It's
contracts,
ridiculous.
this is an increase. So there's got to be something new, huge, large chunks of money that is what the increase is. So we're already paying for a physical therapist or an occupational therapist. We're already paying for a speech.
So you've got the two students that are out of district at 200. You've got BCB services at $172,800.
And that wasn't being paid for last year. This current,
I know we had BCB, I don't know to what extent.
I think that's,
The
Yeah.
BCBA services, it's just contracted services through us. I think it's Stratford Learning.
no, it's
That was a
not
different
Community
figure,
or
but
something like
yeah.
that. It's all of that.
I get that, but we're paying for that now, so I can't imagine they increased us by $100,000 or whatever it is. I get their cost going up. I completely get it.
Honestly, I say this, let's just make our vote at deliberative. I think all of us need to be sitting up there with Patty and the school board, and we all need to be speaking up and answering why we're making the decisions that we've made. And y'all need to stand together as a budget committee and say, enough is enough. They're not being transparent. They have not answered any questions clearly. They're not using our money appropriately, and we're holding the line.
We vote on what we know. If we don't know, we don't vote for that.
And you know, we got very
Unfortunately,
little,
that's how it's gonna have to go.
we got little answers this year. We got less last year. We got no answers last year. So I appreciate you tried. I mean, I wish that you guys all spoke up and held their feet to the fire and held them accountable. But it is what it is. So
We have a motion on the floor.
I'll second it.
No, it has been
Oh.
seconded, you discussed it, now it's moved to vote.
Let's move to vote.
Okay.
So, just so that you know, you want to read the article is replacing that 6.448 with 6 million, so. So I will read it again with the updated number, just so that you're.
So. No, the committee recommends 6 minutes. Put that into there. Okay, everything else.
Oh, yeah, not the depot, sorry.
Right.
Well, I think that we will earlier.
That's the motion that's been made. So
Okay.
that's that. So we,
Yeah, I would just do it, just, you don't want to say you didn't do it correctly. So,
Do you want me to?
do you want to leave?
I'll read it. I hate code green, I'll read it.
Oh,
Anyway. So it's Article 2.
yeah.
Article 2, the average cost per pupil for the preceding year as calculated in accordance with RSA 189:75 I, parentheses A, is $19,699.60. ELA proficiency, 32%, math proficiency, 39%, science proficiency, 43%. Shall the Middleton School District raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth on the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by vote of the first session for the purposes set forth therein totaling
So we're 6 million.
the $6 million. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be at $6,448,397, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by previous action of the Middleton School District or by law, or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:13, 10, and 16 to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. Note this warrant article, operating budget does not include appropriations requested in any of the other warrant articles. The Middleton School Board recommends $6,855,832 by a vote of 3-1-0 the Middleton Budget Committee recommends 6 million by a vote of, now.
Well, you can finish that.
Okay. Estimated tax impact on,
That's not, you're not,
Which we
that's
don't
not for you.
really
to- So now you vote. Yes.
yes. Sarah?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Nope. So it's 7, 6, 1. Well, it was good to see that happen, because in the past, we've had people who are on the school board who voted, then yes for this budget, then yes for the school board, but yes, it's.
We have had that, and it's,
And yeah, you scratch your head and wonder how that.
No.
Yeah,
I mean, if I can't stand behind the budget we propose, what am I doing?
I'm just saying, it doesn't happen.
and I think we all appreciate what you're trying to do.
Yes.
Thank you.
Just, I think we're also all keeping an open mind if there was more information.
Yeah. No, I had a conversation with the superintendent following the requests and, said, what are we going to do next year? We just can't continue. We can't keep doing this.
Well, after 10 years of being on here, I've definitely seen an improvement with helping and getting stuff done. We do appreciate that.
No, thank you.
However, it still needs to be.
It's not enough, I get
more,
that.
and I'm not
I
blaming
hear that.
you, but
I hear that.
it's.
We
one
don't
step
hold the
at a
records,
time.
and that's the challenge. So our job is to facilitate getting it from the SAU because they manage it. So we're kind of at their mercy in some ways, but again, we're working.
And
I
like,
think they need to be reminded, and they need to finally, somebody needs to put their foot down and say, we tell you what we want. They don't hold all the cards. But for so long, they've done whatever they wanted. And as long as that continues, it's going to be a nightmare. And I would totally support, I won't like writing the check, but if they could justify 110% of where every penny was going and showed us, and then our kids were doing great, I wouldn't like the cost.
Yeah,
No
I guess
one's showing it.
that's the question I have. I don't understand why we're putting in, the beginning of the warrant article, the average cost for people for preceding years calculated that, and then we do the ELA proficiency 32.
I imagine that's some of the changes to the regulations on how we have to
State
post.
law. They have to show
Okay.
that.
Yeah,
Well, I'm just trying to think, is this the reason why they're, let's say, well, we're asking for this money because look at our efficiency scores.
no, that's one of the new state laws.
Okay. All right, no, that's
Well,
good
and
to
there's,
know.
well, and you guys will have to have posted at least, 10 days or 7 days before deliberative? You'll have to have all of those graphs and charts.
7 days excluding any fish holiday and Sunday. So the holiday and then.
So it's kind of like a regular public hearing.
well, there's like the posting requirements.
Depending on what board you're on, because planning is different than CBA, this is different.
But they'll have to have like the actual graphs, like the visual graphs and everything.
Should we close the public hearing?
At
8:25.
8:25.
We got there. So our next regular meeting will be Monday, February 16th.
Yeah, so I just want to throw out there, is that, would you be able to have your public hearing then for the town? That might be too late, I have to check the.
Oh, that's, I was just going to ask about the town stuff, where we have to.
It's on the camera, it's on the whiteboard.
I took a picture of the whiteboard.
It's on the whiteboard.
Okay, so we know.
Because I don't have that calendar with me, that's a.
That's why I took
In
a
my other
picture.
file. Because it'll say when you want to have your last, when you can have your last public hearing.
I think I think we have to have our public hearing at the latest date, I think it's like February 13th or 14th.
Is that what it said, Bonnie?
We have the 18th is the last day for the budget committee to submit 2 copies.
No, no, so you have that
Budget,
public
so it's
hearing,
gotta
wait,
be
yeah.
before
before
that.
that.
Yeah.
Should be on.
Last day before the public hearing on the annual budget is I think that's this 13th.
Like Sarah said, so you're gonna have to have a meeting.
So we
So
got
yeah, yes, you'll change your regular meeting from February 16th to another date. You'll probably have your 16th meeting. So you might want to look at your calendars now.
What, can anybody do the 9?
let me check the calendar.
No, the 9th is a Monday. We wouldn't be meeting.
We would be
The selectmen will meet on the 9th.
What about the 10th?
That would be conservation. But they can meet next door.
Yeah, it's not like they
Oh, no, but you want to talk to Kate, because that's, truly they have a meeting in the building before you, so.
And well, theoretically, we could use next door if we wanted to as well.
Yes, we could.
We did last year.
But I was, so, yeah, the 10th would work.
The 10th of the 11th.
The 11th would be school board, I think.
Oh,
Or is
right,
that,
yeah.
oh, no, school
No,
board's
we
gonna
bump
be
up
the
a
4th.
week. Yeah, we bump up a week.
Yeah,
before
because
deliberative.
the deliberative is gonna be the 7th, so the 11th, 10th or 11th. 11th would work. There's nobody here on the 11th.
Yeah. We'll do the 11th.
Can you do the 11th, Sarah? On Wednesday?
Yeah.
So are we doing the 10th or 11th?
11th, right?
11th?
It's Wednesday.
Wednesday, the 11th.
Do you
It's
want
the hearing and the regular meeting.
It's gonna be a public hearing.
The hearing and the regular meeting.
Yeah, I would list it as both for them.
What's up?
Yeah.
And then we're going to do that same time, 6:30?
I was gonna say, would you be willing to, would you want it to do 6 or 6 doesn't work for you? I'm just saying, because you're already here now, but,
Yeah.
but I'm hoping the town will be,
You guys are pretty more
well,
clear.
we think, try. But 6 might be work better for you guys, because you might get done, but I don't know what everybody's schedule is. I don't wanna-
Sarah, can you do any earlier than 6:30?
Earliest I can do without having to leave work early is probably 6.
Can people do
Well,
6 o'clock?
I can do 6. We can always, hold off anything important till Sarah gets here.
6 o'clock, but
Yeah, I can do that. So,
Public hearing, town
yeah.
Well, just so you know, you'll be here until you're done voting, because it has to be done
Right.
today.
Yeah.
yeah.
But I assure you, I never think, you met with each of the department heads, so you want to know what the numbers are, so it's not.
One is going to be a shock.
Right. And I do have to come up with the 2% number, but I think.
But so if we have our public hearing on the 11th and we don't come to a vote, we could always push it to the 16th. If the 13th is our final day to hold at least
Oh.
one public hearing.
Right, yes,
And
that's
a
true.
supplemental hearing.
yeah, correct, you're right, yeah. You're right, yep, sorry.
That's a
Yeah.
good point.
Right.
So if everything goes well on the 11th and everything's done signed for, we don't need to have another call on the 16th.
You wouldn't have that.
The 16th.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah,
I would,
It's a
yeah.
holiday,
I know.
And then technically, I would think that you would need to meet on March. Because you're not gonna have the budget to look at because it hasn't been approved yet.
Yeah.
That's true.
Well, I think the meeting might be like the first
The
one.
meeting's the
after that,
15th,
So I mean, it's
so
not,
it's just,
I think, this is really no.
Wait, town meeting is when?
this is the 14th and
14th.
14th. And town voting is the 10th.
Yeah.
Lovely way to
So your third Monday would be.
Then they're done
Third
that.
Monday is gonna be the 16th. So you're not gonna meet because really there's, I don't know.
Nothing to.
We're not gonna, well, I can tell you, we won't have things turned around enough to get you budgeted numbers, actual numbers, and everything, because it's just been approved. And our concentration will be getting everything input to DRA for them to approve it. Because technically, we can't spend until the state approves what we've submitted. So I would say that if everything goes well at your next meeting, the 11th, you could cancel February and March meetings. And when you come in April, whoever your new people are, in some of the,
So who is up for election this year? You know?
Tracy's spot is,
Right, that I knew, and we have an empty spot.
Janelle's spot, Tracy's spot, and
Janelle's not on the board, so that's.
No, but
Second
that
spot.
was, I'm saying that.
So there are
must be
two,
an empty spot.
Roy has it, I believe I think it's two-year terms or 2 3-year terms, maybe a 1-year term. He has it, because we went over it, he and I did, because we're looking at seeing when, because Danielle's up 2027.
Abby is up.
Oh, Sierra's up, so I'm like, where am I missing the first? I think there's two 27s on there, and there might be a 28, so that means it'd be a 28, maybe, but Roy does have it, he and I went through it. Trying to say, oh, this one came off, this one, and then this person came in, this person was this, and so. And this person is always the hardest one to,
Yep.
that and like school sometimes, you know, somebody resign, that's the hard part.
That's why I
But
was.
you guys have more people on your board, which makes it harder to keep track of. You have had 3 people resign in the past year.
I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
But when you